Did you know that a recent case in New Jersey's appeals court requires people who are now at the end of their registry requirement, they have to prove that they are no longer a danger to society, as opposed to the way we have it in our Constitution, which says that the state has to prove that you're no longer a danger to the state. In Virginia, for example, the state has to prove that you are not a danger. Okay. I'm looking forward to having that conversation when mine comes up. So that's sort of a twist on what it should be in the Constitution. It just indicates the idea of perpetual punishment that the registry inflicts. On that subject of punishment, the labeled offender, Tammy Goodson, who suffered a serious injury on the 4th of July, is in a North Carolina hospital, and she has been denied rehab for a broken femur and a broken back. That's right, denied rehab because almost 30 years ago, she was placed on the registry because she failed in the eyes of the state to notify the state fast enough that her son was being abused. She found out, she ascertained the facts, she went to the state, but it wasn't fast enough. She didn't even have control of her own children because at the time she was suffering from drug addiction and somebody else had control of her child, and that had been taken away from her at the time. But nevertheless, she was held fully responsible for something she wasn't responsible for. And despite the fact that she had an addiction which she had beaten shortly thereafter, she was still punished for that. And on the subject of addiction or on the subject of mental impairment, in Florida, they have a couple of encouraging bills, and one says that if you have cognitive impairment, that can be considered as a reason to be a mitigating circumstance, and perhaps you wouldn't have to register. We'll see how that shakes out in the wash, so to speak. They also have a bill down there that would mitigate somewhat registry requirements in other areas. We'll wait and see what that looks like. But there are in Florida 60 plus, over 60 requirements for registration down there, which is reported by Florida Action Committee or Council, excuse me, recently. And that is just amazing. Okay, amazing. Over 60 registration requirements, right? And if you go into Florida, like if I were to visit friends in Florida, for example, and stayed more than 3 days, you have to register, not a temporary registration. It's permanently on there. And when you leave Florida sometimes and you go to another state, if I came back to Virginia and Virginia had a compact agreement, I might have to require registration as a tier three, as it is in Indiana, for example. All right. It's extraordinary. The punishment level that it still exists out there for something that isn't as clear as the public wants to believe. So, did you know that the registration requirement is perpetual punishment? It sure as hell is.